Hi there, it's Chris. I just wanted to say a huge thank you for purchasing this pack, and I want to take a minute to go through and show you all the goodies in it. There's loads of good, fun stuff, so I'm looking forward to showing you all of that. And then we're going to go ahead and draw this lovely bunny and have some fun with all these lovely paintbrushes and stamps and guides. So first off, I'm going to show you, we have our 5 canvases. They're all unique and all give you a very different vintagey, gritty, just that texture that reminds you of those classic children's books, those fairy tales, that kind of look. So they've really been hugely transformative into making these paintings really come alive. So I'm just going to open up number 4 here. You can see it's a little, have that gritty sort of texture happening. And let's just have a look at what's included in this pack and how best to use it. So I'm just going to open up here. I've done 2 files for you so that, you know, you're not searching all over here. Everything's included in here and labeled so you can find it quite easily. Just have a few sketchers. Not overwhelming, it's just these are specific for trying to get this type of look, but also I know you probably have loads of brushes, so you don't have it overwhelmed, but you also want to have them organized and in a specific place. So hopefully this is helpful. So you just have a few sketchers, a few wet media, a few little textures just to add, 5 stamps just to create those textures, a bunch of scatter brushes just to help you create those scenes that you're looking for, that sort of magical deal. So, and we'll play with these in a sec. And then we've got patterns. And so those are all in this section. And then we have the stamps all in this brush set here. So we'll go through those in a minute. I kind of have them ordered in the order that I use them. So what we'll be doing when we do the bunny here, we'll start with the light sketcher. I'm just going to have my bunny rabbit set as default. I'm going to go to classic. So I'm just going to get just a brown here. And this one's just really a nice, exactly what it is, light sketcher. So I'll do my first sketch with that. Let's just sort of give you a shape here, little leaf, something like that. So that's just the first sketch. And then with the next one is the classic sketcher. This is just a really nice, yummy, this has been really nice using this one. It's really just smooth, but gives you that texture. So this is going to come in and give you more defined look. Just giving you that look. Now this is where it starts to kind of change, kind of give you this more gritty look with the soft edges. Then I come around and I really just give that, you know, you play with your size here. Just that vintagey, gritty look. Just makes that start to have a bit of personality, not just basic, you know, line work, right? And then this one, this scratchy pencil, this we can use for fur, but it's also really good for trees, like doing all the grain in trees, as well as like, you know, maybe patterns on leaves. You can just see how you get this lovely texture without doing too much work. You could also, if you wanted it around the outside too, continue to really build that up. You're just going to see how that starts to create this look really easily. Okay, next up we have the dust. The dust is great for just adding that extra little bit here. Just that grit, that texture makes it aged. And I like to use that on all my line work too. So that's sort of the steps that I'm using on all of the examples that I've in the previews. That's basically, I mean, minus the lines here, because, you know, that would be dependent on what you're doing, but that's sort of the basic flow that I've gone through. And then you have the big dust just in case you want some, you know, bigger, more aggressive dust on something, depending on what you're doing, little bigger chunks if you need it. So that's sort of the flow for the line work that is just super easy, and every time it'll give you that lovely texture, that lovely vintagey old school look. So hopefully that's helpful. The wet media is pretty straightforward. You have fillers and painters. They blend really nicely. Let's just get like a color here. Maybe I'll put a layer below here. You know, this one just fills in really, oops, I have it really big, fills in really nicely, you know, so we can do more of a solid fill with that guy. Textured filler, you're gonna have that texture and another added layer of texture. It's all about texture here. And then we have the classic painter. This one we'll use quite a bit. It has a lovely texture on it too, and a nice blending mode to it, so that blends out nicely. It's a really handy little painter there. Rough edge painter just has a nice edge to it. Again, for doing, you know, specific things that you want that kind of look. This one has, you know, much more higher texture to it, so that can be really useful. Flat edge painter, so you have a flat edge and it has a different type of texture. And with or without the canvas, you can see it has a little bit of a different look. And let's have a look here. Fluffy painter, of course, lovely to do edges with. You know, you can blow that up and just have that soft look. And speaking of soft look, I couldn't do a very nice example of this. I had to do the stamp sample because you couldn't even read what it said anymore. It just would blow it up so much. So this is just like a wet wash brush. It's really just a nice for backgrounds and whatnot. So those are all of your paint brushes per se. These are your textures. You know, you can add a nice little dots to stuff. This is nice, some cross hatching. So if you wanted to add even more texture, let's just say we want to go back in with the brown here and just keep really giving loads of texture here. You can use that for that. You know, gritty if you're kind of doing more, like that would work nicely with trees or rocks or even ground, some sort of foreground application. This is sort of a fabric, kind of more structured look. So that might be nice for clothing, grainy texture. Just gives you lots of options, but without, you know, too many. Just enough, everything we need. Paint stamps and your scatter brushes. Let's have a nicer color for this maybe. We have, that's really huge. Sometimes you might want these in a scene, just sort of like the magical little bits here. You know, it's kind of fun with the stars and the sparkles and little feathers. Yeah, so these are great for just little additions to scenes, but I will show you one thing specifically that you might be interested in the most, which would be, let's say we've gone, I'm just gonna go grab a tree here. I'm just in the stamps. Let's say this tree here, actually maybe this one. There's 2 trees to choose from. So you'll notice that they don't have any leaves on them. Oops, that's way too small. So I'm just gonna bring this up here. So let's say that we've drawn this base of the tree, but I didn't add the leaves for you because we can go into our brushes here. We have flowers and leaves that just are really super easy to use. So you just go and then we can just fill this tree up. I mean, how easy is that, right? That's pretty cool. So you could layer, do all sorts of things with that, make them fall, you know, that's just super easy tree. Because I always find it really painful to have to draw each leaf individually. So that makes that a lot easier. You could go in and maybe, let's try the cherry blossoms here. You know, that might be cute. How simple is that? So that's a great way to use those scatter brushes. I also have moss, because sometimes I have moss on things and this just sort of helps. Sometimes I'll draw a little bit more over top, but you can just sort of, you know, add your moss and maybe do a few layers of colors here. And that's just really simple for that. And then of course we have, you know, grass you could do. I'm not sure how big this is gonna get. This makes drawing grass a lot easier. Just even if you know, just have a few, or, you know, you kind of can do that and then add to it over top to make some more specific ones, but that will just be nice to fill things in. So that's just really a simple way to fill in some scene elements without having to painfully draw everything in detail. So then we have patterns, and these are just little extras just in case you want to be filling in maybe some wallpaper, some backgrounds, or having fun with some extra little samples or something that you need a couple of patterns for all ready to go that sort of match the general theme of this pack here. Okay, so let's have a look. I'm just gonna erase that and just go through the stamps here. I hope they're pretty self-explanatory. I have them all labeled for you. So the characters are here. Now what I've done with, for instance, the fairy, let's just have a look. Oh, let's get brown here. The fairy, oops, get a new layer. The fairy here, you see that I didn't want to put a specific outfit on it because I wanted you to feel free to draw whatever kind of outfit. You also notice that she doesn't have wings, but don't worry. If you go down to the bottom of the characters here, you'll see that you have a number of wing options. So let's just say we pick this one, create a new layer so you can move it around. And then you can also size it up and down. And then you can sort of choose how you want to, you know, create this fairy so it's a little bit more unique to you and what your needs are. And then you can do that and then, you know, sort of have an imagination about what you like her clothing to look like. So it's a little bit more freedom there. So we have that. And then that's same with the specifically, the princess, same thing, you know, just being able to go ahead and draw whatever gown you like on her. The elf, same thing, although I've given him a cape just to sort of get you started with that. And you'll see, you know, the knight, wizard. So all your sort of, well, your characters are here. Have a couple of extras there. Then, and the animals are here too. Unicorn, Pegasus, dragon, rabbit, cat, fox. Have a bunch of those just to play with so that little, your little sidekicks, your little extras in the scene would be nice. So there's a lot of them that you can create those lovely stories with. The accessories, all sort of based around fantasy, fairy tale type things. So loads of stuff to load up. There's 110 stamps in here. So this is what this pack is really about, is creating these worlds and these scenes. So I did a little bit of flora and fauna just to get you going that are sort of, again, in that very much in the theme with the dandelions and the wish fluff and the toadstools and gnarly trees and all that kind of stuff. So loads of things to create scenes with. Speaking of scenes, these are scene elements. So we have like castle, wishing well, secret garden, all this good stuff. Stuff for the, you know, the sky and sort of lovely twinkly bits and stars, falling stars and all that kind of stuff. So loads to work with in there. And just one note is, if you've listened to any of my stamp stuff before, just always know that every time you put a stamp down, do put it on its own separate layer. That would be my little tip, just so you can move it around independently. It will make your life easier. Okay, so now I think we can move on to drawing our lovely rabbit. So let's get to it. Okay, so I have imported my rabbit guide. I'm using the Fairy Tale Canvas 1. So these are guides that you can, they're already set up for you, so you can just get to the drawing and the painting part. You don't have to worry about figuring out your character. This is just for practice and fun. So what I'm going to do with this tutorial is I'm going to show you the step that I'm going to do, and then I'm going to fast forward while I do it. It's not going to be real time the whole time. Otherwise, this will take a very, very long time. So what I want you just to know is what to do, and then you can kind of either pause the video and go ahead and do it yourself, and then come back and we'll do the next step. And you can see why is because, like I showed you in that example, the different, like there's about 5 steps just to do the outlines. So of course that would take quite a while to go through each and every single line multiple times, and I don't want to be boring. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have my image here, so I'm just going to tap on the N and slide down that opacity just so it's not too dark. I'm just going to drag my layer on top, and then I'm going to again select this brown color. I'm going to do all my outlines in that brown, and I'm going to make sure that I'm in my brushes all the way to the top and just get that light sketcher. And just to let you know, my brush is at about size 7, but it's totally up to you if you want to have it a little bit bigger or smaller. So yeah, I'm just gonna sort of kind of have more of a rough sketch just to make it look like we've, and I don't want to do exact on this part. I want to look like we've sort of been working it out a little bit. So it's, just don't actually necessarily stay on the line. You know what I mean? This is sort of supposed to look messy. And I'm doing this like for a reason, on purpose, just to give that a little bit looser, more casual line. This is a design choice just to create a certain type of look. You can have it loose, of course, because he is fluffy too, so it's going to create a little bit more of that. Just sort of think about if, you can be like this, like he's actually kind of fluffy. So let's just concentrate on the head first. So I'll show you all this. This, he's going to have sort of these eyebrows that come here, so we can just sort of define that. Just sketch in where his eyes are going to be. Like you can see that I'm not being very exact at all. It's actually kind of good. It gets your hand warmed up a little bit too. You're not worried about being perfect. That will come in our next step when you're a little bit more, just being a little bit more specific. But yeah, just keeping it really light. Okay, so you get the idea. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to carry on with his body, do the exact same thing, and I might just, give it fast forward so you can carry on, keep going. If you wanted to let the fast forward going until I start talking again, and then you can come back and maybe pause until you're done, and then we'll do the next step. Okay, so if you're not all done, just hit pause and then come back. And if you are ready to go, let's move on to the next step. Okay, so let's go back into our layers. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to have all of my sketch work on different layers, just in case you wanted to go back and change something. It's because they're going to be layered, it'll make that a lot easier. So I'm also going to name this. So I'm just going to tap on it to rename. And I'm just going to say, well, it's what the brush is, I guess, light sketch. So let's just tap on the image below and then add the plus sign. So just so this line work is on the layer below. So let's go to our brushes and get that classic sketcher. Let's see, I don't want it too big. I mean, it is pressure sensitive, as you can see. Let's just have a look. Maybe around size 8 will give us some flexibility. Yeah, okay. So this, we're going to be a little bit more specific. I'm going to kind of think about how furry I want it to be. I'm not going to draw every hair, but I do want it to, we have that other brush that we can use. So we're just going to sort of be maybe giving it a little bit more of this. Some of the previews, I did do more of a specific line like this. It'll depend on your subject matter and what kind of look you like. So with this, because he's a bunny, I'm just gonna go and just do little lines so it's not too exact. And with this, feel free to be a little bit more loose with his hair here. Just, these are just little dashes I'm doing, right? Just dash, dash, dash. Have a little curve to them, keep that loose. And here. Don't be too fussy. Again, we're gonna go over this a couple of times so we'll get loads of nice, yummy texture. You can add a few hairs in here if you want. So that you might see more. And just do whatever angle that your hand feels comfortable with. Like sometimes this isn't as easy as I find, like going from top to bottom. So it sort of depends on what your hand is more comfortable with. Maybe a little bit extra around his cheeks, just where that kind of comes out. Maybe a little bit less fluffy under his chin, just so we can see all these details here a little bit clearer. You want them to read a little bit clearer. And same with here, and then maybe a little bit more fluff on his little cheek there. Okay. This one I'm going to be a little bit more exact with because it's his nose and not fluffy, so we'll just do that. A little bit more exact with this. This can be a little sketchier here because that would be fluffy. Same with here. I'm going to be mindful of the angle. I think this angle will be probably a bit more appropriate. And then smoother with the lips. Okay. That gets that nice. And same here, maybe I'll give it a thicker line here. I'm not going to be fluffy with his eyes, of course. And I'm going to fill this in too. You can use the side of your brush a little bit. It'll make it a little easier. Okay, just like so. And here, we'll just, it's kind of more where his eyebrows are. They can come out a little bit. And we might give that more definition later on, depending on just, you know, when we build it up and kind of see how much we need there. All right, and then this, this is not a line I'm going to do. You can if you want, but I think I'm gonna have that more for where I place the color, not so, you know, outliney for this harder line here. So I'm just gonna do his little eyebrows here, more along this. Just have that as a cue for where we'll have some color change in his little face here. Okay. Okay, so now let's move on to the close. So of course this is going to be nice and smooth, not all dashed and fluffy. And then of course where, you know, this part of his body and his hands, we'll do the dashed and the fluffy part. So this will all be like this, and then his clothes will be more of a solid line. So what I'm going to do is fast forward again, and we'll just continue to trace all the rest of his body, and then we'll come back and do the next step. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so now that we're done that layer, we can just name that. So tap on the name and say rename. And I'll just put line work. That should be fine. Okay, and then we're going to create a new layer. I'm just going to drag that below. Now this time we're going to go back and get these soft edges and just go, this is a little bit quicker. Let's just see what, you can use whatever size you feel comfortable with. I'm going to be at maybe 20, I think it bumped down to 19, 20. It does expand if you push, it is pressure sensitive. So maybe 15 would be best because if you start to push on it. Now this is where, again, you can get that, you know what, I don't know if we have to do dashed lines. You can if you want, maybe here. Just to really, you know, play around with it a little bit. I almost think we can kind of scrub, get away with that. It's a little bit easier, but still keep that, you know, that furry texture. Just gonna see what it goes. It sort of starts to blend out a little bit. Keep a light hand on it. You don't want to be too heavy. Maybe we can start doing a little bit of shadows with that in here in his ear a little bit. Coming around here, just sort of scratch this in. But yeah, light hand, don't put, you know, don't push too hard. I don't think you need to. Might as well save our hands where we can. And then in his face, just start to, you know, give this a little bit, little eyebrows. Now here we might want to dash a bit just to sort of build that up, like that. Just creating all this lovely, delicious texture around his nose. We can even go and sort of use this to color it, start, you know, adding texture to where it's going to be quite dark. Okay, his eyes, just line those out. You can color this in too if you want. Sort of adding texture to where we will paint in. But I like these layers of texture on texture. Okay. So that's good. Just carry on with the rest here. But just outline it, basically. This brush does all the work for us. It's not too complicated. And you don't have to be too fussy with it. You know, just follow the lines that you've done. But it doesn't have to be like absolutely precise. It's kind of the point. So you just want to just follow what you've already outlined here. Okay, so we'll just do a little fast forward and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we've got all of that extra smudgy outline, so I'm just going to rename this to soft sketch. Okay, great. So let's just tap here and create a new layer. Let's just do the dust. And this is really simple. It gets easier as we go along, as you can see, it's not as fussy. So we can just go, let's see what size I have, maybe about 20 here. Literally just go along your edges. This is super simple. Just wherever you want that, it just creates, and you can use it maybe extra back here for a little shadow, just kind of around. It just gives that. And you can maybe, let's maybe get it even a little bit bigger into 30, just lightly, light pressure, just adding all this extra stuff here, extra grit. I'm not going to go overboard on his face too much, just more around the edges here. So this is, yeah, definitely do not be fussy with this. So we don't even need to fast forward this because this is pretty quick. Okay, you know what I'm going to do too, just while I have it, I might probably do more. I'm going to just kind of give a little shadow down here, just a little bit of grit there. Okay, so let's just name that layer as dust. Okay, so then I'm going to take that layer, swipe to the right on the one above, and the one above, and that one, and then just tap on group. So you can just see all my line work is in one group. I'll just name it sketch. Just for organization. I'm trying to be better with my organization. If you know me at all, I'm usually terrible at naming my layers. So I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. We can turn off this sketch layer below, like our guide here. So you can see already we're looking very nice and vintagey. So let's start the painting. I'm going to open up my layers and just tap on our gold guide here just to create a new layer that's below. Let's select this light beige color here and select your fluffy filler in your wet media section. We're just going to fill in the body first just to kind of get some paint laid down, and then we will, add some more over top. So with your fluffy filler here, I'm going to be changing my size. Right now it's about 17. Actually, I'm going to probably have it bigger than that. Let's maybe around 30. Just to start coloring in. Now with this brush you can pick up and it won't affect it. It's a fairly solid fill here, which is kind of nice for this application. And you'll see this lovely texture from the canvas. It's coming in, just so yummy. I've been really enjoying the painting with these canvases. It's been really some cool stuff that I've been able to get out of it. So hope you enjoy them as well. So let's just kind of fill all this in. Like I said, just his body, and then we'll do a different color for his outfit here. I just went over his eye. You can if you want, or you can just avoid it. Maybe I can go and erase that. Actually, I might. I'm just gonna go and avoid his nose and stuff because I'm going to be using a lighter color like pinks and stuff. I don't necessarily want to have that interact with this beige color. I can always erase it and change it, but if you're kind of like using the more transparent paints, not such a thick paint like this particular one is, then you kind of get that orange underneath, and I might not want that. I'm not sure. So we can just remove that there. Okay, and then back to our fluffy filler and just let's get his little hands. If you go over it just like I did, big deal. Just go and erase it, no problem. It's the joy of this digital painting, so forgiving. Okay, I'm going to leave out his tail because I'm going to have that, primarily white. I will have some white details on him, like on his face and on his tummy here, but for that, I think we'll go over with the white, but because that's, the tail is like a separate section, I can just leave it out, and that's probably kind of easier. Same with this, the bottom of his foot, I can leave out because that's going to be white. It's easy to do, just like that. Okay, good stuff. Let's move on. I'm going to try to label some of the stuff. So let's go just rabbit, fill. How about that? Okay, so let's create a new layer and let's do his shirt underneath. So I want to pick this lighter color here. I might adjust it a little bit because I feel that, yeah, it's pretty dark with this particular brush. I'm just going to edit this for you. So this one here, it'll be right for you. I'm just going to adjust it for me. And that's way too limey. I want it just a little bit softer. That's probably better. So I'm just going to adjust that for you so you have the right color there. So that's the right one. So ignore me changing these things as we go, but sometimes you don't, you change your mind in the moment on the day, and that's okay. So just make sure your brush is small enough to get into all these little areas. And I'd rather it be a little bit lighter and then darken. It's just a little easier to work that way, I think, personally. So I'm just going to color in all of this part that's not his vest with this light green color. Bring up that brush size to get in there. It'll make it easier for yourself. Okay. So that's good. Now let's do his little vest. So I'll just rename that as shirt fill. Okay, add another layer on top and we'll do his vest here. Now let's just pick this color and see if that's probably right. Okay, so let's just go ahead and fill this in still with our fluffy filler. All right, now that I've done my edges, I can just color this in with a bigger brush. All right, so now we have most of the fills done. We can use this color on the watch as well. Just have a small enough brush to get into these little bits here. So just on the outside, of course, we're not going to do the face, just around here. All right. That looks good. Okay, so we can label that, we'll just say vest fill. Okay, so we have all our parts pretty much have some paint on them for the most part. Now let's go in and concentrate on the actual bunny. I'm gonna create a new layer, and I'm gonna fill in his, sort of use this layer for his face. So maybe I'll just name that face. I'm gonna use a brown color here and then go and get this classic painter. We're gonna use this quite a bit. So just a really great overall brush for most things. So with this color, I'm just going to color in his eyes. So they're nice and dark, but you can kind of still see a bit of that texture through. We might do a little bit of a lighten on them somewhere, but I'm going to just make sure that that's good. And then I'm going to use this brush. Maybe I'll use a lighter brown here. Maybe this brown. Just to kind of have a shadow here. Nope. I'm going to use a lighter brown here just to kind of create a little bit of a shadow. I might bump up sort of his lash there because it's not very thick. And the same with over here. Just give him a bit of a shadow, maybe in here too. Just wouldn't be quite as bright. Sort of blend that out a little bit. Okay, let's give him a highlight just so we can, his eye looks a little bit friendlier. So I'm gonna just create a new layer on the very top, just above the sketch layer. Let's just name this highlights. Grab pure white, go to our classic sketcher. Let's just give it a little dot here. Let's just see if that's nice and friendly. Oops, it would be sort of a partial dot here maybe. Just make sure that his eyes look like they're looking in the right direction. Okay, I think that's all right. Make sure that's rounded enough. You can add another little one here if you want. Depends on your sort of look. I think that's a little bit too anime for me, so I'm just gonna leave that highlight like that. Okay, wonderful. Now I'm going to go back to face. Let's pick out sort of this pink color, back to the classic painter, and just paint in his little nose and his lips. Just going to blend that out. And you can pick this up to put on more paint to blend that out, just like all my blending brushes, the same thing. You're just going to put down paint, and then if you pick up your pencil, do it again, it's going to add more paint. More pressure, more paint, lighter pressure. It's like adding water and it'll blend that out. Okay. Let's go back and get this brown color here and just darken the back of his mouth. Again, we'll still have that texture, but it needs to be, significantly darker than it is right now. So maybe give it another layer. Go over it again, tap, 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 add more paint if you want to get that nice and dark. Okay, that looks good. Now, I think I'm going to have to do a white layer here. So what I can do, I'm just going to bring his face down to where the rabbit is, just for logic's sake. Tap on rabbit fill and create a new layer. This is just going to be white. So let's just go all the way white. Go and grab the fluffy painter. You can see what we're going to do here. My size is maybe around 37 or so. It might have to be smaller just to be more specific, maybe in the 20s here. Just so I can get this little part. We can also manipulate it if we need to. So I'm just going to do his little cheeks here, kind of like this. So that's probably good. I'm just gonna have this bending here. So if it hasn't gone exactly as you want to, you can go up to your magic wand and go to liquefy. Instead of redoing it 5 times, just come to push, and then maybe just, shape it a little bit. you know, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to control exactly where this goes. So I just want to do that. Just wanted a little bit of a curve here. Now still with this brush, maybe with a smaller size, maybe around 10, let's do this. So remember this shape here that we had? Sort of just where I wanted to tell you to do this highlight. And same with over here. And because we have our layer order and this is below, it won't affect this face part. So that's good. Okay, so that's giving him a nice little personality. Lovely. Maybe a little bit on the ear too. You know how they kind of have those details on them, those bunnies sometimes, just a little bit of light around the ear. Actually, while I'm here, I'm going to do the inside of the ear because I'll do a pink inside, and then that the way it'll be a little bit lighter. Just add that. Maybe we'll do a little bit on the bottom of the hand. So like maybe his paws would have that going on just a little bit. And maybe on his toes. And then maybe, like I said, on it, I wanted it on his tummy as well. Okay, so that's nice. I like that because that gives him a little bit, I don't know, just less flat, you know, a little bit less boring. So I think that's good. Okay, what else can we do? I want to, you know, I'm going to do the highlights after. So what I'm going to do is just say this is the white fur. Okay, now we can use this as a selection. So what I'm going to do is tap on the rabbit fill, tap on that layer and go select. So now you'll see these lines that are all over. You might not be able to see it very well on the screen at the moment, but there should be diagonal lines. And all it is doing is selecting this, what's on this layer. Now create a new layer while this is selected. Go to your swatches and let's get this color here. And we're going to stay on the fluffy painter. And I'm just going to go around and just see how this is just painting on this edge here. Let's just go and start to create some nice shadows. So we do want this ear quite in shadow. So we're going to have our sunlight coming this way, but we want to make sure that he looks nice and rounded. I'm using really light pressure. I'm not pushing too hard. I'm just dusting the edges here and picking out where I want this lovely shadow to be. I'm going to do just around here, just so that the edges, so he's, again, it makes him look like he's not flat. I have that white there, so it's not going to pick up on that, but that's okay. So you can see how that's starting to work nicely. So the back of his hand, so I don't have to worry about coloring here because we have this, just the body selected, our solid fill. So that's coming along nicely there. Great. Okay, so this hip would be in shadow. Maybe a little bit of his foot, maybe under here. Again, just kind of round his body a little bit. I want this a little bit, you know, not so harsh, so I'm just bringing up my brush a little bit, and with super light pressure, I'm just doing that. Now we can go ahead and use a blending brush to, you know, fix anything that we need to as well, if it's, you know, too harsh or something. So actually, I'll show you how to do that. Go to your blending brush. Now go to the Fairy Artist Studio, and you can pick the fluffy paint, like exactly what we've been using. Sorry, that opacity was down for some reason. Just the same brush, and then you can go in and just blend that if you have any harsh edges that you don't really like that much. So I think I'm okay. Let's see what else we can do. While we have the selection, I mean, we can go and select it again, of course. Maybe we'll go and get an even darker color, maybe this one here, just very minimally. I'm on my brush again. I'm back to the fluffy painter. Just minimally, just in a few spots, just an extra little bit of dark. Don't go overboard here. Just see a little touch. A little goes a long way kind of a thing. So just very small along some of these edges. We're gonna have to come in here and give this little, very minimally, not too much, I'm going overboard. Just underneath the vest is gonna have a little bit of a shadow. And I think I might have to change the layer order of the white because we're not really seeing that too much. Okay. I will double check on that in a minute. Just a little bit here. Just brings that added depth to it. That looks good. Just gonna go along here, even though it's not showing up too much. Okay, maybe, oh yeah, this guy's missing a little bit of something. Okay, so we can go ahead and if we tap this, the selection goes away. Okay, so you can see it's just painted on that layer. So I'm going to just double check this layer order. I'm going to bring it above. Do you see how now it changed that? Above the white, I think that's what we need, but I might have to adjust some things just, because just to make sure it's a little bit neater. So I'm going to name this shadows. Well, actually it should be fur shadows, but we'll know what's in this fur section here. So if there's any adjustment, go back to your blend tool here and be on the fluffy painter. Just have it nice and small, around 8 or 9, and just be careful just to go in and fix anything that looks a little bit too harsh, where that white that we didn't quite see there. There. So layer order is important and it makes a difference. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so let's just concentrate on the ear here a little bit. Like I said, I wanted some pink in there. So I'm just gonna create a new layer and use this pink. I might need it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm gonna leave this pink for you, but you can do this with your color picker here. So just move to the left and then up a little bit, right around there. I think that'll be nice. So you can always, use these palettes as a springboard and then, adjust as you feel the need. So I think, see, that's a lot lighter. I didn't want it to be quite as red as that. I want to be able to build it up a little bit. So very lightly, sorry, I have my fluffy painter and I'm on a new layer. Just gonna very lightly come in here, pick it up, go again, a little darker just all along here, like that. I actually want just some pure white in here because this is kind of being lost. I'm gonna have quite a small brush, around 6. I want this highlight in here. See how that just breaks it up a little bit more? So I think that gets that look. Okay. So what else can we do here on his little face? I think we're doing pretty good. Oh, we can add the pink over here. So go back in your history, you'll have that pink. If not, go here, left and up, right about there, should be good. I'm going to go and get my classic painter and let's just, actually we do need this fairly dark. We probably could use the darker one, but that's okay. We can just layer them just till you see that it's appropriate. Okay. Lovely. I'm just trying to get all the main parts of this first. I can see that there's a few things on his face that I'm going to want to go back to my sketch layer and do a couple more things. Maybe, you know what? Well, let's do it now. Why wait? Go back to your sketch layer. Go to the line work. So that was your darker line work that you did. Go back to this brown and pick up this classic sketcher. I just want to really define this a little bit more. So depending on how yours is looking, you might want to do that as well. Let's just see. I want that a little bit. I might bring in the other brush as well. And then here I wanted to add more of an eyelash, so I'm just giving this more weight at the top. I can kind of bring it out too, just a little bit. I want him still to look like a boy bunny, but so not too like, oh, major eyelashes, but just a little bit. See, maybe that's too much. I don't know if yeah, no, he's a little bit. It's more logical. Okay, and we do need to add whiskers at some point, which we could do right now. I might use the other sketcher. So let's go to the soft sketch here, same color, soft edges, and just come here, and I just wasn't feeling like this was defined enough. That's not quite right. And here, his face and his nose. Maybe that's a bit messy. Like that. Maybe with this brush, just sort of give a little texture here. Just for these shadows. Oh, and let's do his eyebrows a little bit more. So let's darken that up. With this brush, I just found this angle a little bit easier. Needs a little bit more expression. And here, just give that a little bit, yeah, I'm going overboard, a little bit more around the eyes so they're really popping a bit more. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Maybe a little bit weighted under here. I'm using it as, you know, to create more shadows, right? Okay, I think that's good. Right, oh, so let's just put that back there and let's do his tail. So I don't need to really paint it white because it's white enough here with the canvas. So let's just go to the shadows and go and grab this, let's see, this color here. And we can do let's start with the fluffy painter. I don't think we need to do too much here. Just keep it fairly small, around 5, just so you're not, you know, going way outside the edges here. Just like that. And I'm gonna go and blend it again. So our blender still is on fluffy painter. Just blend that out a little bit if it's too harsh. I want it fairly soft. I don't think we need to do much. Like that's enough. That's more than enough. Okay. Great, so I think we can, actually I was saying I'm gonna do his whiskers and I don't do it. Go to light sketch, go to this brown, go to the light sketcher. Let's get this, and then I think his face is for the most part done. All right, so you're gonna go around this area, be in an angle that is comfortable to you, and do a flick. And maybe, you know, try it a couple times to see what you like. I don't know if I like any of them. I want it fairly light. It's just sort of that balance, you know, about how light and how dark. And you kind of want them on an angle, so. Something like that. Maybe we want a third one just to, because 2 maybe looks kind of funny. Okay, that's probably good. I think we're safe to move on to his clothing. So let's just go and create a layer over his shirt fill. So just add that. Now we can go and do like we did before with selecting. So tap on the shirt fill, select, your lines will come up. Don't worry about it. Go back to your layers, go to that layer, that new layer that you created. And let's go and get this color here, this gray-green color. Classic painter, and let's do some of our shadows. So this is going to be, you know, quite a bit darker under his chin, so that would be casting a shadow. Same with under here. And let's see, start to have some lines here maybe. We can add patterns and whatnot if you'd like to do that as well. I'm not sure we're going to do it for this tutorial, but obviously his clothing can have, you know, more intricate details and patterns that you might want to explore as well. But we'll just get the most important part, just so it's all shaded, and those extra fun details you can always add another time. Okay, so it's going to be sort of under here. This is, you know, just keep it a little irregular, and then these little bits maybe, you know, sort of where the fabric is gathered a bit. Something like that. And you can always go back to your blending tool, and I always like to pick the same brush that I'm working with. It sort of seems to work nicely. Classic Painter. I'm not sure why that keeps the opacity. Just check on your opacity sometimes. And if, you know, any harsh edges that you don't like, just blend those out. Super simple. Back to our classic paintbrush. Quite dark under his little arm here. And under here. So where all these natural shadows would make sense. Sort of where the bend is. And then you'll have, you know, sort of things coming in like that. And again, back to the blender if we want. I want some lines, but, you know, wherever it doesn't look quite natural enough for you. Now we can go in and even get the darker color here. And same thing, just sort of, you know, really pop closer to the edges. Don't go too far out. Just that extra little bit of depth. Under here. Just really makes that difference. Oops, doing a little bit too much. And I'll blend that out. I don't like that line, so I can change that. Yeah, and under here, you want quite dark. Okay, just a few little pops. And so we can deselect by tapping just over here. Okay, so that's coming along nicely. I'm gonna leave that for now to see what else we need. So I'll say shadows. Lovely. Okay, so let's tap on the vest, and we'll do the same thing with the vest. Create a new layer. I'll name it shadows again. Tap on the vest and select. Our lines are up. Tap on the layer above. Let's use this color here. I'm going to use the Fluffy Painter, and I'm just going to get some of these edges. It's fairly small, around 5. Actually, maybe I'm going to have it bigger. Maybe around 10. Just, again, rounding that out. Bring it up even more, just if you want this whole side to kind of get a little bit. That's getting a little bit crazy. So I'm at 50 just to I have such light pressure there, just to get that whole side. Now his arm is going to be casting a little bit of a shadow here, so we can get that. Maybe a little bit under here. Now I'm going to go and blend a little bit, so back to my blender, Fluffy Painter, just to kind of, you know, smudge this out so it's not too harsh. Now back to the paintbrush and choose the Classic Painter. I can just do a few little details here, like under here would be a little bit more of a crisp line. Same with under here. Realize this line doesn't go here. I didn't draw that in. I can do that after though. Just a few of these little extra details. This might have a little bit here. Okay. Wonderful. So we can deselect, and that's coming along nicely. It looks very, just that old school childhood memories of all that vintagey sort of fairy tale stuff. Awesome. You're doing a great job for getting this far. Hang in there. We are seeing the finish line soon. All right, so I'm gonna do my next layer is going to be sort of this overall highlight layer that we're gonna have fun with, and we'll see how much we need where and see if this is all we need to finish up or whether we need a little bit more. Okay, so create a new layer on the very top below the sketch layer and switch it to add. So tap on that N, you know, where is it? So if you tap on the N and then you go down to add, and then I want you to change the opacity to maybe around 40 or so. This is gonna be something that we're gonna adjust. I just know that 100% is going to be way too much. So try around 40. And then let's go and get a color, maybe like this color. This is a little bit of an experiment. This is gonna add some really fun highlights. So I'm gonna start with the eye so you can see how that does kind of fun things. It adjusts the way the light kind of happens here. So it's kind of makes the eyes glow a little bit in a good way. Just to have that sort of light come through. So that can be nice detail. See how it interacts a little bit differently here on the nose. Gives that a little yellow look. Let's see for the buttons. See how that just, you get some surprises. That's what I love about it. So if we're doing like fun highlights, especially on metallic things, is really good. Just gives that, just elevates it a little bit. So I'm gonna use a softer brush, I think, like the fluffy brush, and just have it fairly small, maybe around 5 or 6. Just give it a little highlight there, a little highlight maybe here. Maybe on his shirt here. Tip of his finger, well, a little bit too much. Just be, you know, don't go overboard. Just use it sparingly. But I'm just going such a light hand, but we can change the opacity if it gets too much. Change your brush light. You can even change your opacity here if you feel, so maybe like that. Just see how that just elevated that? Amazing. This is a fun little trick that I've started doing and I like it a lot. So just maybe a little bit around the face here, maybe in his little ear. It just changes things, which in a fun way. Maybe a little bit there. Okay, so, oh, I'll do his little hand here, so I need a small brush, maybe a little bit here. I start to get carried away, but it's fun. Okay. Lovely. So let me show you what it looks like with and without. Okay, we seeing that? Just look how that just adds that little extra detail. I can see here we could do a little bit maybe with his little hairs here, because those are coming out in front. So maybe we want those to stand out a little bit more. How fun is that? That just extra little detail. So those, let's name it, well, it is highlights, but I know we have 2 highlights, but that's okay. Extra highlights. So the last thing I'm going to do is create a new layer at the bottom. Just get a brown, maybe this brown here with the fluffy painter. I'm just gonna give a little bit of a shadow here just to finish that off. And there you go. So you can see how easily to add a scene. You can go, I'm just gonna create a new layer. You don't have to do this. I'm just gonna give you an example. Going here, you know, going to, you can give him a little snail friend, right? You can have a little snail there walking along. You can go and have, let's see, where's our flora and fauna here? You know, throw a little, just see if we can throw a little mushroom in here. I haven't done a very good composition, but anyways, you can see how that could be fun just to add little extra details here and there. And away you go. So have fun creating those scenes with all of these lovely goodies. It's I think this is more than enough for you to feel really confident to use everything in this pack to create glorious fairy tale storybook illustrations. So I hope you had fun with this one. I did. I think I'm really happy with how it turned out. So you can, like I said before, you can always go ahead and add some more to this little guy, add some details and some patterns to his clothing and all that kind of good stuff. But you are well on your way to drawing loads of fairy tale goodness. So thank you so much for joining me. God bless you, and I will see you in the next one.